And John Verre is going to give us an update on special education and particularly what the district has been doing regarding transition services. Transition services are those services that are required for every child once they reach the age of 14. So if your child's 13 and their 14th birthday is going to occur during that IEP period, you want to bring attention to the fact that transition services should be included as part of their IEP. What those services are depends on who your child is and what their individual needs are, whether it's vocational training, transition services in terms of, job coaching, filling out a job application, how to do a job interview, travel training with regard to either taking public transportation, assistance with applying for a license, and, banking, things that relate to sort of adult life. And even if it's a more severely involved child that requires activities of daily living in terms of learning how to be more independent at home in terms of doing, household daily chores or even laundry and things of that nature. Transition services is really supposed to be individualized to the individual child. So it's an area that we've been working with BPS on, and John Verre is going to give us a brief update on that.
Thanks, Carolyn. Good evening, everybody. I want to thank you for coming out on such a cold evening, and it's great to see a number of you that I've worked with around programming for your children, and I really appreciate the fact that you keep coming back on a monthly basis to this meeting. Let me say to start with that I remain open and available to you when it comes to the individual programming for your children. And in my offices, I'm trying to keep everybody organized around doing the same thing. I'm really happy that Eileen Nash is with us now, that it's already made a difference to my work, that there is a deputy superintendent with the background that she has and with the particular focus on the work of special education and student services. So you can expect that your phone calls to us and your letters to us will continue to get the attention that we've been trying to give them. But now we have a deputy superintendent who is there to help me do my job, help me get the kind of movement on systemic issues, and she's a problem solver. She's been a principal of a large elementary and middle school, a K-8 school, for 10 years, and she's been one of our main principal leaders when it comes to serving children with disabilities in the Boston Public School. So I think this is going to be really good for us. I would ask you, I know at these meetings sometimes a few of you try to get to talk to me individually, and I'll continue to try to do that to the extent that I can. But please be sure to fill out one of those forms. If there's a concern about your individual child, please be sure to fill out one of those forms and make sure that a member of your board gets that tonight so that they can get it to me tomorrow and I can get my staff to pay attention to those things. I did want to talk about just a couple of things tonight. First of all, I wanted to let you know that we are right in the middle of doing the final planning details around extended school year programming for this summer, and there will be communications from us to you over the next couple of weeks about how that process goes. But just to be clear, the decision about whether a child needs extended school year, many of you know this because you've been through this a couple of times, the decision about extended school year programming is done in the team, and you need to be part of that discussion, and your input and your ultimate decision making is critical. We have done a lot of work over the last couple of years to improve our ESY programs, and Eileen Nash and I are going to be working together to do that again this year. To do better every year is really important to us. We have the largest ESY program in New England. So of all the school districts in New England, certainly all the school districts in Massachusetts, Boston has the largest program measured by the number of students who are involved and the number of extended school year sites that operate in the school district. And we're excited about the fact that because it's the largest program, we have higher quality in many of the programs and more diversity of offerings. And one of the things we are going to be working, we started last year, we're going to be working even more this year, is to figure out ways to have more inclusive programming during ESY, where youngsters whose education plans call for inclusive programming, we're going to try to carry that right through the summer. That's a more difficult thing to do in the summer because of the way programming for typically developing kids goes, but we see some real opportunities, and we're going to be working on that again this year. The other thing I wanted to mention is this is the time of year when families receive notification about placements for next year, or this is the beginning of the season of that. And I would really want to invite you, if you receive any kind of notice at all from the Boston Public Schools that is either not clear in its content, or it's not what you were thinking you were going to get, please contact our office right away. Some of you know the assistant directors who work with your children, or the supervisors, and contact them directly. Or if you don't know who that person is, contact me. Do that by telephone or email or whatever. If you do it right away, sometimes there are mistakes made in the process that we can fix right away. So if you get a notice at home and it doesn't make sense to you, don't keep it and worry about it. Get in touch with us right away. Now, finally, and I will be open to taking a few questions when I finish, I did want to let you know sort of where we are with implementation of improved transition services. Thanks to Eileen, in her position for about a month now, we are spending a great deal of time going over the details of what we are currently doing and what we need to do more of and what we need to improve. So I wanted to give you a sense of those things. So first of all, there is a lot going on currently in transition services for students with disabilities in the Boston Public Schools, and I'll mention some of these things, and then if you have questions, I can either answer them tonight or get you answers. So a large program that is appropriate for some students with disabilities is called Strive, and it's a program that leads to the development of independent skills and community management skills and occupational skills for many students with disabilities. And Strive is based at Madison Park High School, but the students who are getting services through Strive are in a number of school-based and community programs all over Boston. Included in the services there are relationship building, helping the youngster as he or she gets older understand how the relationships that he or she has with employers and teachers, etc., are as important as anything else in their development and in their success. The second is what we call whole life planning, and that is that we're trying not to solely focus on independent living skills or vocational skills, but think of the young person holistically in all of the different ways in which they need to develop. You may know, I should have started with, transition services mandated at the federal level and at the state level need to be planned and implemented for children starting at age 14 and extending through their time in the schools and then out into the community after that. So we are obligated to do transition planning and transition services for all children with disabilities between the ages of 14 and 22. Like the ESY program, The Boston Public Schools has the largest commitment, the largest obligation, and the largest programming for students who receive transition services. We have some 4,000 students with disabilities between the ages of 14 and 22, and many of those students are currently receiving many services, and some of them are not receiving everything they should receive. And so our job is to move ahead and make sure that everybody's getting what they're supposed to get. Another service of Strive is community access training, where we're trying to teach these young people how to make contact with other people in the community and other agencies in the community that can help support them as they leave school and go out into life in a different setting. And then finally, post-secondary transition. That is, it's the obligation of the Strive program to try to structure the relationship building between the Boston Public Schools, the family and the student, and the agencies and organizations and employers that will become part of the support structure of the student when they leave school. The Strive has work sites in the community, and one of the things that we know we're going to be working on in the future is diversifying the opportunities that students have by diversifying the group of work sites that they have. As you can imagine, in an economy where employment is challenging for our whole society, finding job placements and training placements for high school, middle and high school students is even more challenging, and that's the job of our transition program. There are also particular summer offerings for students in the Strive program that extend all the way from social, emotional, behavioral opportunities for the development of those skills to vocational and employment training programs to community access and community management skill training for the students. Now, there are some other programs other than Strive that are already in place and give us a window into the way in which we need to diversify the program, make it different for the different kinds of kids we have. So we have a program called the Inclusive Concurrent Enrollment Program, ICE, ICE, run by the Institute for Community Inclusion. And this is a program that provides students with opportunity to engage in coursework and community life in colleges and universities, even while they're still in school. And we have now relationships, ICE programs with Bunker Hill, Roxbury Community College, Mass Bay Community College, and UMass Boston. So that's a program that is not Strive and is oriented toward bringing children with disabilities, young people with disabilities, into the university environment. And then there's the Young Entrepreneurs Program, which is a private nonprofit organization that builds entrepreneurial experience for young folks with disabilities and build those entrepreneurial opportunities right into the schools and the community. And then there are a whole group of recreational programs which are focused as much on building the social skills of students as anything else. Now, there are some other additional programs that are available for students who are in transitional services, and just to mention a few, there's the Mass Rehab Job Fair every year. There's the Spring Community College Fair every year. Mass Rehab Commission does outreach programs to school-age young people. And finally, there's the Job Show program run by YEP. So I just gave you a very quick summary of things that are currently going on. I want to let you know that there's been a lot of discussion about transition assessments, and we know that while there are a lot of assessments currently going on that are taken into consideration in transition planning, One of the areas where our strategic plan, as we implement that, one of the areas where we're going to focus is in solidifying and standardizing the continuum of assessments that should be used as we do transition assessments for students. So we know a lot about what we currently use. We've gotten really good advice from families, from people in the community, and from experts in the field of transition as to what kinds of assessments are available for us to use that we're not now using. We're going to be looking at those things. So that's one area of improvement. Secondly, for the last 2 years, we've used a very substantial grant from the State Department of Education and invested tens of thousands of dollars. This year, over $200,000 in professional development for our own staff and for our collaborators who are working with children between the ages of 14 and 22 to teach them in structured ways about good transition assessment, about coordinating all the things we do in the life of a 14 to 22-year-old around developing the skills that youngster needs to be successful when they leave school. So there's a really substantial investment being made in professional development. What we intend to do is to make sure that the people involved in that professional development are the people who are working with these youngsters all day, every day, anyway. So they're teachers, they're counselors, and the coordinators of the teams that do the evaluations and are writing the transition plan. We are also really aware that we don't do enough yet to engage the students themselves and the families in this transition planning process. So part of our strategic plan is to invest in, and we're going to do this, I hope, in collaboration with SpedPac, to invest in time and effort and some dollars, whatever dollars we can glean, in informational sessions for families and informational sessions for the students themselves. What we are trying to do as we move into this new phase of program development in transition is build on the things we're already doing, make sure that the things we're already doing that work, we continue to do, that we organize them better into more standard approaches, and then we add to those things the things we're not doing yet. We're hoping very soon that the new leader of transition, who will be a supervisor of transition, that we will be able to post the job description that has been drafted and is being reviewed right now, and that we'll find the leader for this effort going into the future. I think I mentioned this last time, but I would say again that if any of you here, parents or professionals who might be here tonight, know of those leaders who are here around us, we need to know who they are so that we choose the right person for that work. Let me stop there and answer any questions that I can, or take your questions and find the answers for Portland. Yes?
The question that I had, I'm not sure if this is a form for it, but I just found out from my son, who was in the 8th grade, that being that he's studying under a portfolio, being tested under a portfolio, under his IEP test, that upon graduation of high school, he'll only get a certificate of completion, not a high school diploma. Now that causes concern to me because even children who drop out and then go off and study elsewhere receive the general education diploma. So I just want to know, is this forum to address that? Are you guys people to speak to and to getting more information as to why he would not, after spending the 4 years in high school, receive his high school diploma because he's studying?
So my experience with this since I've been here is that every case, every individual student's case is different. And we have to be very careful. My understanding of my obligation is I have to be very careful not to treat students categorically. So there are some students who I may think, or people working with a youngster might think in a school, or parents might think, of course, it's going to be this way or that way. It's going to be portfolio or not. It's going to be certain kinds of credits and certain kinds of completion. I want to be very careful that I talk to you individually about your individual child's situation. I think this is the kind of thing Carolyn may want to address when she's talking about rights and responsibilities tonight. What I understand is that we have to find ways to have every student with disabilities progress and succeed in school, and then bridge with them to the next phase of their life, whether that's going to be college or further training or some kind of supportive living or supportive work situation. We've got to make sure that they have the coursework and training they need to get there, and then the credentials that they need to do it. I've been, in the last few years, worked closely with a number of universities which are now starting programs for people with disabilities who went through schools on portfolios, and finding ways to admit students to college-based programs based on the portfolios that those students have put together. Now, I understand college is not appropriate for all of our students, but we have to make sure that every one of our students has the strongest and highest level credentials they need to do what they're going to do next. And so if you would, I'd like to talk to you individually about that, and if you would fill out one of those forms and just make sure that you mention what you just did. Thank you. Other, yes?
Do we have the list of those transition programs that you just mentioned?
I can make sure that that's available through SpedPac.
We'll put it on our website for you, but if you need it in hard copy, just let us know before you leave and we'll send it to you, okay?
Okay.
Yes.
This may be a silly question, but John, can you say something about the process about how these various programs get selected through the transition process? I mean, does one have to apply to these programs, or are they, you mentioned that Strive, for example, is based in Madison High, but does services elsewhere. Are those all in the context of a normal high school student's day, or are they outside of school? I'm just kind of at a loss.
Strive services are typically during the school day, and they're available to youngsters in that age range wherever they go to school in Boston. So while the offices and the staff have a base at Madison, you don't have to be a Madison student, and you don't have to go to Madison to get the services. Now, in terms of how do you get into these various sort of programs that I mentioned, the programs we run are open to all of our students based on planning that is done in, regular planning. Access to some of the community-based programs are dependent on the terms of that program, what they set as terms, and our folks know about those things and try to make the match between the student and the program. What I recognize, since I've been looking closely at this, is there are things in the community which we don't access right now, and we're going to do that. And not everyone, not all parents and not all kids know about all the options. And so we're doing professional development with our own staff right now to make sure that our people have all of that complete repertoire of what's available, and can work with families to make the match for the student. There will probably always be things going on in the community that we don't know about, but as we learn about these things, if they become part of the transition repertoire, then that's going to be on the list in a sense. Other questions? All right, well, it is great seeing you. I'll be back again next month, and Thank you for everything you do for your children. Without you, there's no amount of work we could do that would succeed, for sure. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, John.